Chanel Miller was once known only as Emily Doe, the anonymous victim of a sexual assault by a swimmer at Stanford University. Then last year, she decided to step into the public eye with a memoir pointedly called Know My Name. It went on to become a New York Times bestseller, and now she's making her way as a young artist living right here in New York City. We caught up with her to find out how her life has changed. You moved to New York City in the middle of a pandemic. What has that been like for you?
I'm very familiar with the trees in my neighborhood. I've, developed deep grooves in the sidewalks from walking the same loops. But when I was writing the book, I was alone at home for 3 years without any coworkers and without anyone knowing that I was at home. So I felt like, okay, I've been here before, but the difference for me now is that I'm not as mentally isolated because this time people are aware of who I am and what I'm doing. And I also think I was forced to live in a suspended state of uncertainty for a really long time. I waited 1.5 years to get that verdict, and I had to just keep reassuring myself that no matter the outcome, I would figure out a way to be okay. And right now, that's something we're all learning how to do, and I hope that people don't underestimate that as a skill.
It's been nearly 1 year since you revealed your identity. What's it like now that the entire world knows your name?
I'm really grateful that before lockdown happened, I was able to have a few book signings and finally meet people face to face and experience that warmth directly. People would line up and write their names on Post-it notes in the book so that I could sign them, and I've kept every single one because I'm meeting the people who have saved me.
When you were growing up, it was hard to find representation, which made it hard for you to identify with your Asian heritage. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, growing up, I didn't see people who looked like me on prominent screens. And even before I started doing interviews last year, I kept questioning if I truly belonged in these prominent seats. But then I thought maybe it's because I'm not used to seeing people like me sitting there, and so that's why it feels so unnatural. So if I do it, maybe it'll become more natural for someone else who looks like me.
In the wake of the coronavirus, there's been an uptick in attacks on Asians, but specifically in this country on Asian Americans. Have you experienced any of that?
Well, first I want to say that it's important to note that it's not new. It's more physical and frequent and aggressive, but it's not new. And if you speak to any Asian American, they can list out microaggressions they've experienced since childhood and insulting racist comments. We can't tolerate this anymore, especially now when the hate crimes are getting more violent and pervasive. We're not going to sit back.
You write that your art is what helped you get through some of the darkest periods of your life, and now you are creating art and exhibiting art. What does that feel like?
I think a lot about how when I was in court, it's a place that's completely devoid of art, and that was difficult for me. Art has immense power to nourish people and to also address your humanity, saying, just to give someone something nice to look at. So that was important to me. And now, what's incredible is that the Asian Art Museum has given me a 75-foot wall.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's something that I never would have asked for or thought to ask for. Say, hey, can I fill that wall? So the fact that they brought me to the museum, stood me on the street before this massive wall and said, this is yours, again, that's restructuring how I see myself and also telling me how much space I deserve to take up in the world. And that's what I hope people feel when they go there and see it.
Wow. Anthony and Michelle, the mural that she has created is called I Was, I Am, I Will Be. And during that victim impact statement that she read in court, she talked about being with everybody, being with little girls, being with people who are not believed. She was with them. And you heard her say to me that now it's come full circle, that the folks around her who have come to see her, who have come and have read her book, she is supported by them.
Yeah.
Survivors' voices are so important to hear, and it's so good to hear hers.
I love her story, but I love the whole conversation, but I love her story about keeping the Post-it notes that were attached to the books that she signed, because the connection with every one of them meant something to her.
We both odd when we heard that.
Really did.